That you give to us, and we ask that you bless this meeting tonight, that you show your love and mercy to us, and give us grace, and help us to do the same in the actions that we take tonight, and the things that we discuss, may they be in the best interest of our community, our school, our kids, and all the things that we do here tonight. All these things we ask in your name. Amen. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Yes, sir. We need to, agreement that, we had sent Ms. Sawyer. She got back with us. Athletic apparel and equipment at college.
All those in favor of the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained. Announcements and recognitions.
Sir, Mr. Chair, Ms. Vice Chair, it's my proud honor to announce tonight that, I don't think in my career I've ever had the opportunity to announce this. And, Ms. Joni Paget at Fishkill High School College and Career Academy has been named Music Teacher Excellence Award, state of Georgia, to represent. Amazed. The other representatives from around the country, based off of their states, representing the same thing. I kind of thought it was a joke at first when she sent it to me, because she was like, "You want to go to the CMAs?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, yeah." And she's like, "No, really, I've named this recognition for Music Teacher of Excellence Award, and it's quite an outstanding accomplishment." And doing an article, advertising based off of that, but I didn't want to put it out there before I put it forward.
Big board tickets.
Unfortunately, it's a little more complicated than that.
I'll move to the minutes, entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the October 12th meeting. Is there a second? Motion second, any discussion?
The one correction that's needed, Mr. Chairman, in the first paragraph, the location of where we actually met needs to be corrected.
Okay. All those in favor of the minutes as corrected signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Participation. Thank you. We'll let the record show that the body has signed up to speak. Moving to system reports, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items listed on your agenda 7A, 1 through 5.
Motion.
Is there a second? All right, motion second. Discussion, pay bill list.
Fund 100 is $2,823,519.61. And Fund 151 is $144,293.73.
General fund fiscal year to date report.
Mr. Chairman, the fund balance report is showing in balance at $4,757,966.02.
Any questions? All right, East Bluffs report.
Here are the questions. We didn't hit rock bottom. East Bluffs come in at $172,583.76, about $48,000 short. Where y'all spending your money? What's happening? Can anybody explain it? Did I miss something?
Ms. Shirley, the only thing that I can think of is the availability of people waiting and gathering their money for Christmas. But then the second piece is that there's nothing out there for people to get. And if you go to Walmart, I went today, and it's getting done. And but I don't know what would cause that drastic of a fall. I have no idea.
Dr. Harrison, help me with this. So how exactly do we get our SPLOST dollars? Does it come through the state? Does it come through the city? I know I should know, but I'm asking.
Basically, what it does is when you come up and spend, so it's changed a little bit, and now that you can have taxable items for shopping online, that was a large increase of what we saw when that came into play. The second thing is the general economy picked up on top of it, and what that money does is it comes and filters in based off the collection of what you have. So our tax assessor and the availability of what he's brought to the table for us over the past several years he's been in place has made it very marketable to increase that availability of us having a better line item stream of understanding what local taxes are, what property taxes are, and how we're collecting those. So yes, it's a very complicated formula. I don't want to sit here and bore you with it, but yes, it is going through that filter system of how we receive that in the local community. Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you. I just thought it might have been a typo. I was hoping that's what it was.
And, it could be many things, Ms. Shirley, in that formula that could show up next month that it just didn't happen last month or
And
something.
so this really reflects the spending in September or October?
This is a month back.
Okay.
So everything should be a month back as it drives forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, facilities report.
Mr. Newman, or excuse me, we have Mr. Hightower with us from Parish Construction. I'm sorry.
Thank you. So over the last month, it's been really exciting out there. We started installing our finishes, so it's kind of bringing color to the building. We're changing from gray concrete and masonry to painted block, and your soffits have color on them, splashes of purple and gold or purple everywhere. Starting to bring the building to life and starting to look like what it's going to look like. The athletic wing and polished concrete already completed. The epoxy floors are going in. You got polished concrete in the 9th to 10th grade classroom wings. You've got paint on the walls there, millwork's in place, in the ninth grade wing, starting in the 10th grade wing, they do the doors and hardware and ceilings and things like that. So, those wings are really taking shape and starting to look like what they're gonna look like. And just a little dustier version than what they will be already. But CTAE is where most of our mechanical and electrical guys are right now. They're there in the kitchen cafeteria. They're working, pulling wire, installing ductwork down there. And we've got some finished grading around the site, getting ready for landscapers to come in. The next couple of weeks to start installing irrigation, and getting ready for the sod later on. We've got the sanitary sewer is down the Edward Road, and it's turned up. We're going down the road to tie in. Next week we'll be doing the water, and we'll have utilities in the building. We'll start setting culvert fixtures right after that. So a lot of real visually stimulating things going on in the building right now. So next time you get out there, it will look a lot different than it did a month ago. Anybody got any questions or anything about it?
Drove the bus loop today. It looks like it's going all the way through.
Yeah, we got that, and all the way connected. There's no more of that. We finally got through the mud, and glad to be there. So.
How about, and this may be a question for you, Mr. Superintendent, how about the tennis courts?
Yes, sir.
Tennis courts, we've installed the storm system for that. Next will be the moving the dirt in there, and then the asphalt and everything after that. Trench drain would be the last thing. We're trying to get it in. There's a certain window of weather that you have to install that top coat.
Right.
We're going to be heavily weather dependent. Down here this far south, we're doing told there shouldn't be an issue. But until we get it down, I'm concerned there's an issue.
Do you have a time?
I think it's 3 to 5 days that they have to be above 50-something degrees there. If we can hit a couple of days window, we can put it down. If not, then basically we strike the undercoating and play on that until it warms up enough to do it. Obviously we want to do everything we can to get it in that window.
What kind of time period to have it where it's functional?
Well, once you put the asphalt down, you wait a month.
Okay.
And then you put down the top coat. And that top coat is the sensitive portion that we've got to hit just right. And then once that's down, it's properly and you get it. So, it's going to be December, mid-December. If we can get that down, we'll be good. If it turns out to be a cold mid-December, then we'll have to wait until it's not.
Okay, thank you.
We've worked it out where we've got a plan of action that if the weather turned off cold, we looked at it, we'll just strike the blacktop in place and then come back and finish it out.
We want to hurry up and get it down as quick as we can, but we want to make sure that it's a long lasting service.
Right.
We don't do anything that's going to question that, so we'll wait until we get it right.
Thank you.
Okay? All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Please be safe driving home. Thank you,
All right.
as always. Mr. Newell?
Yes, sir. I just, we got our new work order system out there, and thanks to Randall for working on it hard, Matt, and it's just, everybody seems to like it really good because it's all electronic now, no paperwork and all that good stuff. Got all the lock cores and keys in for the new high school, so that was ahead of schedule, so those are ready to go when they're ready for them. We've been trying to get LED lights in the ag barn for a long time, and we got that done this week, so that should save a lot on our electric bill out here, and, having to replace ballasts and bulbs and all that stuff, it's all LED now. So, and we done that pretty cheap, and we done the whole barn, 196 lights for $2,500, so that should pay for itself pretty fast, pretty quick. And Miss Martha, she's doing some stuff and getting some new equipment put for the kitchens. We got the new oven put in for the pre-K here this week. It's up and running from the 1930 model they had, so they can cook efficiently now. They loving that in there, and, y'all get a chance, I'd like y'all to go out to the primary schools and, look at the new, cafeteria tables for the kids out here that Roger got put in there. They look really, really good. So if you get a chance, ride by and look at that, which was desperately needed. And, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Newell.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Athletic reports. Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda items as presented to you, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Our transportation requests are there for your information. Al, board of directors updates?
Last month, we took the board of directors on a tour of the new high school. They enjoyed that, and that was pretty much our meeting. We had a couple of agenda items we had to knock out. We knocked them out right there on the tailgate of my truck. So we did that. One big piece of news is round one of the flex competition is going to wind up tomorrow morning when we announce the top 10. We had 17 applications picked up from Fitzgerald High School, College and Career Academy, and 4 from Irwin County. And we had a total from both schools turn in business plans. There were 17 of those. So today, members of the community, several banks around the town, sent lenders and several entrepreneurs to the chamber, and they went through all 17 that we got and narrowed those 17 down to the top 10 companies. So you'll see those in the morning via social media. As soon as Mr. Sims announces it at the high school on the morning announcements, we're going to hit send and it'll go out to everybody. But as you start seeing these student businesses around town, do business with them. You can find something out of the 10 that you'll be interested in buying. So we just want to support them. But round 2 will start once we announce the top 10. Got a lot. Our skills day went great. That was where we had the construction, plumbing, and electrical day. We had 8 kids show up. I had 14 sign up and 8 showed up. I think some of them thought it was a day of school, so they were just going to get out of class. But the good thing about doing it on a PL day is the kids that came were really engaged. They wanted to be there because they could have been sleeping late, but they decided to come hear that. And it couldn't have went any better. I think there's probably some jobs that are going to be, some part-time jobs going to happen out of it, and they made some good contacts in the industry that they're interested in. So got a lot of cool stuff going on.
So on the flex, the kids this year figured out there's really money.
Yes, there is money, and I think that's why we had a little better turnout, because last year they didn't believe we were going to give $5,000 away. So
Good. Good. Okay, COVID update.
COVID update, at this current time, we have 4 students, 5 that are quarantined, and 1 adult. And our numbers are way down, just like last year when you look at the data from the Department of Health. It's following the same trend. It's down before Thanksgiving. And after Thanksgiving and Christmas last year, it went back up dramatically. So we continue to monitor, we continue to focus on health and safety at school, washing hands and covering up and just trying to be safe, because we know it's still out there and people still get sick, hospitalized, as well as dying. So the numbers are down, but yet we're still trying to do the right thing with our students with covered water fountains and keeping distance as much as we can in the classroom. And we continue to gauge how it went last year, just looking at the data.
Any questions? Thanks, sir. Matt, technology report.
All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Y'all got a few updates for you this month. So towards the last month, the new panels in the primary school, we followed up on that with some training for the teachers, just because it was a little bit of a difference in how those operated, so we just wanted to provide that support to them. Also complete the rollout of the digital maintenance order system, as Mr. Newell shared with you earlier. So I know he's excited about that, and I think everybody else is as well. Several of our ladies in the department attended a technology consortium conference last week, so that was a good opportunity for them to kind of network with some of their peers and come away with some different ideas and just be a kind of a development event for them. Looking at some of the things for the new high school, we're currently at the final approval phase for the network there, which is something that's just kind of part of the process where the engineers providing the professional services, they take our input, they come up with a plan, they say this is based on your input, you know, what we believe to be the best configuration. We sign off on that, and then once we get that, they're going to be started rolling with the configuration and eventually the installation, which they will come and do on site. Looking ahead, we plan to go ahead and finalize procurement for the dedicated internet circuit at the new high school. This is something that we're going to be able to likely do from a local service provider at a very good rate. So it'll be a relatively minor cost, but it'll be huge in terms of supporting the autonomy of the new high school. We're working to make different kind of implementations that'll make it as autonomous as it can possibly be in terms from a technology perspective. You know, we want it to be its own campus, fully functional if the need arises from like a fiber cut or anything like that, just because they're kind of out there on the island at this time. So anything we can do to kind of shore up and protect and against faults, that's what we're working to do. Also looking to schedule the interactive panel install at the middle school, as well as refresh the classroom phones for the elementary school.
Questions?
Just a quick one, I'm just going to make sure I understand. You're saying that we may not have connectivity at the new high school?
No, ma'am. So the point of that was basically in the other direction. So right now we are tying in the new high school to our fiber ring that's currently in the county. So that's our primary connection. Additionally, to supplement that in case of a physical fault in that cabling.
Oh, okay.
Exactly, except that it will also be used as a load balancer too, so we will really open up a lot of options for us in terms of offloading traffic and stuff like that, so that it's more robust. Not that there's a chance that it won't happen. We'll actually have two different physical paths, which is the key. The physical path is the key at the new high school, which will put them in an even stronger position than just putting them inside the normal fiber ring, which they also will.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Our goal, Ms. Shirley, was exactly what Matt's telling you, is that I want to be able to have it that if that side of town were to go down, we can run it from this side of town. And if this side of town goes down, we can run it over there from that side of town. And that's just smart business when we look forward and the availability of what we have to move forward with. And you got to remember that a lot of this is E-rate and a lot of this is grants that are providing this opportunity to be able to do that. So with that being said, what Matt has been so graciously not to tell y'all tonight, along with Brendan, is this, as we pursue more and more technology and we pursue more and more grants, the good Lord's blessing us more and more and more. So we talked about this and we applied for an opportunity to receive funding through a specialized grant called ECF. It's a technology grant, and we were awarded today $900,000. So Pat, you want to fill in?
Absolutely. So
That'll provide.
Yeah, just like Dr. Hurst said, the ECF grant is something we mentioned to you before when we were going through the application phase. That award just came through this week. What it's going to do is it's going to provide direct 100% funding for the student devices that we put into that application. So that figure that Dr. Harrelson just gave you, think about this, it's money that was gonna be spent on devices anyway, but now through this provision of the grant, we don't have to come up with it. It can even be a direct invoice from the vendor to USAC, the grant administrator, which means all we have to do is place the order and receive the products. And then the payment is just gonna go straight to the vendor from USAC, from the federal grant administrator. So it's gonna be huge. This gives us an opportunity to get strategic in our approach to student devices, and we're gonna be taking this opportunity to make a significant technology transition from a Microsoft shop to a Google shop, which will give us a big boost in terms of the instructional ability that our teachers can do with those computers. You think about the peers in our RISA, in the whole state, really in the whole country, 99% of people are Google. We believe there's a reason for that. We're excited as a technology team to look at the increased management that we'll have over the devices, but we're also excited about the simplicity of that system and how it's going to be much better for our teachers and students. This is going to take care of a very big problem that we have in accidental breakage of computers. The computers that we've ordered, the line item includes with it accidental damage protection for 3 years, meaning the student inadvertently knocks the computer off the table or throws it in the book bag and it breaks for book hitting or what have you. That's not going to be covered under our new technology approach, which is made possible through this grant because it takes the cost prohibition off the table. We don't have to come up with $1 million now. It's been awarded to us.
So think about that. That's $1 million savings right there. That's opening up. When I came in the door, we had, and y'all remember this, Gary, Teresa, and Shirley, 2 emails. Y'all remember that? We would get emails in 2 different emails. And now, look at where we're at and the availability of how we're expanding to go to Google and then have money to purchase all this brand new equipment to keep up with the 21st century learner and expand our availability to reach out and touch people.
So I'm taking it, if we're going to the Google platform, all this Windows stuff will refurbish or...
Right, so our initial plan right now is to take the best of what we have currently deployed, which is a significant number, convert them to Chrome devices.
Yeah.
Now, we may have to pick up a Chrome license, but that fee is negligible in terms of the scope of the project. But exactly what you're saying, Jeremy, then we'll be able to repurpose them, build up a spare stock, have spares in the library, cover any gaps that may exist anywhere. And that way we're still realizing the full value of the current hardware while we make this transition.
There's limitless opportunities. I mean, think about it, y'all. You talk about parent communication and how we do things with parents. Imagine if we get to a point where we keep receiving funds and grants and building up a stock that you can supply parents with one and have the opportunity to communicate back and forth or telehealth, those type of things. It's just a broad opportunity for different things and avenues that will help our community become better. But very proud of Matt and Brandon and the work that they're doing. And I mean, $1 million grant. I mean, that's something to be very proud of. Yes, Ms. Marshall.
Will cases of some sort be included in this with the individual?
It'll be included in the project.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the other thing is there any charge with the Google, or is that one time it was, I don't think it was.
Right, so Google is free for education, and you can buy an enterprise version, if that was the decision based on those services. But just the Google for Education is free too.
Well, one thing about connectivity and the telehealth and student devices, the student could use their device for telehealth, couldn't they?
So that's exactly what I'm talking about. Let's say that the student was at the school, but the parent didn't have a way to get to school. But if we allowed parents to have resources to that opportunity, because we had extra, especially if they get a student that is being served under that condition, we can give them that opportunity. Now you have your wireless that we're putting all over the place, and the governor's making a larger push for that across the state of Georgia, to have connectivity across, especially the South. You're talking about bringing back parent communication in a different way, bringing it to them instead of the old way of them having to come to us. So it's broadening our health opportunities for better health for kids and adults. It's better technology. It's giving our kids a lead into the 21st century academically and technology, our teachers, and then it's going to make our community better.
And we in rural Georgia.
Yes, ma'am.
Any ideas or projected date or hopeful date for that connectivity thing?
As far as
The state or here
well,
locally?
actually, I signed an agreement, or not an agreement, I signed that we've supported the agreement of them applying for broadband connectivity down here with the power company the other day. And we're in full support of that. So now we have our hubs that we've got, so we are putting those in, and then Mr. Scott Spivey and the community is also working on some opportunities for grants to go along with us based off of that. And it's a great opportunity.
And one more question, maybe two. Will there be lockdown browsers on all of these devices?
So
that's one thing, Martha,
Yes.
about the Chromebooks that I'm personally excited about. Just due to the cloud native management of it, it's going to open up a lot of additional management opportunities that are just basically, you click what you want and it goes out to the device. So yes, the lockdown browser in any app, it will be able to be pushed and used on the device.
Okay, and then one more thing, is there going to be anything like a deep freeze on the network to
No, ma'am.
stop?
The nature of the Chromebook itself and Google Apps in general is it's cloud-based. So the device doesn't really change. It can locally house some documents and stuff like that, but if you think about the nature of it, how it works, everything's in the cloud. It's just a terminal to access those items, get online, etc., and do that type of stuff.
So then, would there be a chance of them opening up an email and getting a virus?
I mean, that risk always exists. Now, with the Chrome OS, it is much more secure just natively than something like a Windows device or something like that, because it's running far fewer services. So if you think about it in terms of a surface area of attack, it's much smaller. But specifically for email security, we are right now moving forward with an additional third-party filtering service called Mimecast. I've mentioned it a couple of months ago. We were moving forward that. That is right now being turned on, and I expect to have that on by the end of this month in terms of an overall extra email filter for the whole district. And that will be independent of what we have now. When we go to Google, it's just an email filter, so it doesn't care what platform you use. It filters everything that comes through.
Okay, so you're saying, I think, the lockdown stuff, whatever, will be done on the individual devices, not on the whole network?
So when I was talking about the lockdown browser, I was just referencing the devices and the ability of the system to push applications to them and have them be installed over the air very effortlessly and very simplistic.
just one other thing, the easiest way is, yes, the reason we're going to Google is that you're going to a cloud base, and it's a lot better for us in protection of what we're doing and keeping our information secure and those things. Yes, ma'am.
Just one last question about the platforms that you're gonna be putting all over town. Have y'all identified where you're gonna place those?
We're still working on that. We do have one or two identified, but that is something that I wouldn't say that we're struggling with. We just have yet to identify that. We do have.
That's gonna be a benefit to the entire community for that.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, that's part of I guess what we're doing to try to identify these is They need to be in places that are already publicly serving. You know, if we can figure out a way to do that, then we can maximize their use and their benefit for, you know, for whomever is coming into the range of these devices.
Are we collaborating with other government entities to see if they have some suggested areas?
I have not done that yet, but that's a good idea, and I'll make a list of those and reach out. That's a great idea.
Please understand, Ms. Shirley, these things do have a limit for the number of people that can get on at one
Oh,
time.
I see.
So they're not just an endless amount that everybody at one time can log into that one hub. There's a cap, and then when people come on, people can log on.
Kind of like our old, party line.
Yes, ma'am. A little bit better. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm sure not. Thank you.
Any other questions? Report on curriculum and instruction, Mr. Webb.
Some of us are too young to remember party line.
Have you got a grant too?
No, I don't have a grant. But I want to start off on the back page of my report to kind of tie in the technology. One of the concerns that have come to us from parents is having regular updates on their child's progress. And so one of my pushes, beginning late last year, was to get our K-5 schools in the parent portal. And it's a whole lot of work is going into that. I want to thank Matt, Brandon, and their team. Dr. Stone has done a tremendous amount of work working with our instructional coaches, Ms. Brady, Ms. Rathford, and their teams. And they got all the standards into the platform. Teachers this 9 weeks have started inputting updates for the standards that they're actually teaching. K-5, we went in and we checked some of those, and in the parent portal, so the parents will be able to see as teachers are going through, getting their CFAs, and also at the elementary school, they decided to add some other grades in there too, because they want to make it a little more robust. And so hopefully, as we move forward this year, by the time we get to the end of next year, we should have regular weekly or better reports to all our parents K-5 based on standards reference grading. And in our professional development, we are really focused on student engagement right now, trying to talk about instructional strategies that improve student engagement, because that's a real big concern. One thing that's happened since we returned from being out of school with COVID and kids have been out a lot, we've got kids that are having trouble transitioning back into the classroom and being engaged in what our teachers have to offer. And so we're going to have to make a real conscious effort to look at our teaching strategies and how we're going to get our students back engaged in what we have for them in the classrooms. And so we're doing a lot of digging, a lot of looking. Month before last, I gave you a booklet of strategies. A lot of those had to do with student engagement. And so we're working in that direction. I do want to talk to you about the milestones. Been looking at what we can do to improve those scores. And I've been talking with teachers, talking with administrators, anybody I can talk to, other curriculum directors, they're all having the same problems we're having. Not also rounds, it doesn't matter where they are, they're having the same issues. And so what I started looking at is why are we struggling? Because our students know more. I talk to these students, I go in the classrooms, I ask them questions. I talk to students today at the high school. In math classes, I visited 3 math classes, talked to students. These students know more than what they're showing us on the milestones. And one of the things that has come to light is that, yes, they know a lot, but they've got to be able to get it on paper. They've got to be able to get it in the computer. They've got to get what's in their minds on the paper, and that's where they're struggling. And so we're making a real focused effort on writing and what is important in writing. And this has been a major learning curve for me because, as y'all know, I'm a mathematician. But I love to learn. And I'm always looking for something new. I want to learn something new. And so I kind of work really, really close with Ms. King because she's in charge of testing. And so she sent me something here a while back, and I did read everything, and then I wanted to see the video of what all the state had to say about writing. And I want to tell you what I've learned about writing, and it may surprise some of you what the state's really looking for, because it shocked me. So, this is what I know so far. Students are awarded credit for what they do well. Educators need to know that evaluators are looking at what the student did include, demonstrate through their writing response. Educators need to understand that length of writing does not determine success. The emphasis should be on constructing a quality narrative using various effective techniques. Students are not penalized for errors unless they permeate the response and impact or interfere with overall understanding. Educators need to know that grammar does not play much of a role in the scoring process. Students' responses are viewed as first drafts and are not expected to be polished papers. For narrative writing, students use text as a stimulus or launch pad to complete their narrative response, thus allowing them individual creativity. And I say that because I think we need to allow our students more individual creativity in our instruction. You go to a kindergarten class, first grade class, second grade class, you see kids creating. Go to a 6th, 7th, 8th grade class, not so much. I think we need to see more creativity. The narrative writing prompts are more of a jumping off point for students, and that they are not limited to only write within that given idea. They can write their own story. If they can show that they know how to write a given writing style, then they can score well. Tips to making even a higher score. This is where we want to get our 3s to a 4. Narrative writing is mainly judged according to strength of narrative elements in the response. Students need to use information from the text to inspire the writing and serve as a knowledge base for detail and description in the story. When I say story, whose story is it? Their story. Ideas and details from the text should be integrated into the narrative and become a natural part of it rather than interrupting the flow of the story being told. However, students need to avoid regurgitating copious amounts of text. Generally avoid copying or closely paraphrasing large blocks of writing from the text. Students should let their story drive the selection of what to include in the text. In other words, the text does not drive what the student writes. The student's own story should drive what details are selected from the text to support their story. I met with ELA teachers at the Fitzgerald High School Career and College Academy on November the 3rd. And I will tell you there was no agenda. There was no script. This was just a chat. I wanted to find out what they were thinking. And we sat down, and to be honest with you, they all had their own kids. They had their pens. They were ready to write. And I told them, I said, I don't have any tidbits of wisdom to impart to you to make your job easier. What I want to hear is, what are you struggling with? And what are your students struggling with as far as writing? And I had to change the question somewhat and ask this: what can your students do well? And they said exactly what I was expecting. Our students have wonderful ideas. They have wonderful stories to tell. They have a lot of knowledge to share. We can't get them to get it on paper. That's where we're struggling, getting what's the knowledge in their head to where we can read it. I met with Mr. Sims and his admin team. I thought we had a real constructive conversation the following day. And we want to monitor these ideas that the state are telling us that we need to be working toward. and that we really need to be working on helping students tell their own story. And the other thing we talked about, one of the things that I've learned over the past couple of months is teachers tend to attack problems that students are having globally. And that's a real issue. If you wrote me a paper, and I graded your paper, and you got it back and it looked like I cut myself and bled on it, would you want to write for me again? Absolutely not. So I'm encouraging our ELA teachers to find one, maybe two things to work on at a time, and not degrade everything in the student's paper. What we need to do is, hey, I hear this, they're not capitalizing the first letter, they're not putting a period at the end of the sentence. Well, they don't do that when they text either, so. But that's two things you can work on. Don't work on spelling, don't work on subject-verb agreement. Leave all that alone, just pick a couple of things and work on just those things, and when we get that right, then we'll add something else in, instead of attacking the student everything. I've gotten papers back that look like my ELA teacher bled on it, and I didn't want to write anymore after that. I want to tell you, I wanted to go to my math class. So these are the things, and I'm going to continue these conversations. I'm meeting with the ELA teachers at the middle school Wednesday of next week. I'll be meeting with their admin team after that to talk about where their teachers are in the writing process, and of course, elementary will be next, and then primary will be next. And yes, those students are writing, and some of them really do a great job. So just keep in mind that we are working toward getting our students to write, and if we can do that, I believe our milestone stories go up, because they've got the knowledge and the stories to tell. We just need to give them the tools to tell it.
I have a question. I didn't hear you say what you thought the block was. Is it because you were grading? I didn't hear you say what the block is. When you say it's for them to put it on paper?
Fear.
Oh, fear, okay.
Fear is a roadblock.
Yeah.
Because when you're looking at a piece of paper and you want to put something down that you know that it's going to be assessed, students are just like us. We want to be perfect. I mean, I'm a student. I like to be an A student. I love a 4.0. I mean, who doesn't? But we've got to know that we have to start somewhere, and we need to be very, very sensitive to their needs as students. And they have to have some success. And so in that success is their story. We can fix all the mechanical things as we go along. We just need to do it one thing at a time.
So is that why you think creativity has gone away from primary to middle school? That this is, I mean, you think it's over the years that we've lost that creativity in middle school?
I think what we've done is we've let politicians, this is just a personal opinion, I think we've let politicians tell us what we need to do with our students.
Right.
And we need to quit listening, and we need to listen to our students and worry about their needs, what they need to be successful. One thing I learned when I was working in the classroom at Fitzgerald High School, I hear people say, well, they just don't care. Well, I want to tell you something. When Mr. Harmon was talking to students about graduating and not graduating, and they went out in the hallway bawling their eyes and crying and sobbing, tell me they don't care. They do care. We just got to be listening to them.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Okay, moving into new business, superintendent's new business item.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Day's been full of blessings. You get a $1 million grant right off the bat, and boy, what more could you ask for? Well, you could ask for the opportunity of what we got to experience today. So, Ms. McCraney, do you want to talk about the availability of what we were able to do today at Mr. Heitzman School?
Yes, at the middle school today, we signed 5 new REACH recipients, scholars, so we're really, really excited for those 5 students and their families. So we had their signing day today, and we'll get started working with them very, very soon. And I love that our scholars at the high school thank Mr. Sims for letting them come. They're able to come every year, and I think that's good for them to be able to talk to our new, our new scholars, and they kind of have a mentor system, and kind of talk to them about what does this mean and what I do and that kind of thing. But we're really, really excited. And I asked one of the girls if she was happy, and she said, well, I asked her grandmother, was she happy? And her grandmother said, I think we're a lot more happier than she is. I said, well, she's in middle school. She's happy. She just can't show you that. So, but yeah, it was an awesome day. So it was an awesome morning to be with them.
We're very thankful for our sponsors. I don't think people don't comprehend how big that is for our school system being in South Georgia. To have 26 kids go through that process, as far as receiving that opportunity since I've been here, that you have major systems that don't produce 3 kids a year. And we are very, very blessed from a community standpoint of support, and then from the REACH program support of being able to provide that service for those boys and girls, because it's going to do nothing but grow more and more and more.
And our sponsors, I'm going to let y'all know, so if y'all see these people, and some of these people are in this room, but Southern Veneer, Community Bank, Colony Bank, Worthington, Casper, Stone, and Conger. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Lisa and I can't get it out. Anyway, our Kiwanis Club and our Lions Club, those are our sponsors, and they are a true blessing, because when someone is approved through the REACH scholarship, we send $1,000 to the Georgia Student Finance. That is our fee. To be able to do that, and so our sponsors pay that fee for us, and that is fantastic for us to be able to get 5 students every year.
Yeah. So that's
it's a true blessing.
A true blessing as the day goes forward, and we're very proud of them and what they're going to accomplish down the road. So moving into my new business. Mr. Gary asked me to give you a report on the new school and where we're at and where we're going. So Matt, if you'll pull up that diagram. All right, gang, here's what I'm going to ask you right off the bat. I'm going to ask you as board members, I don't want you going into school anymore from this point on until we have our work session in December. And I want you going in. And I don't want you going in because so much is happening. And I want you to picture when the last time you walked in versus what you're fixing to see. Because it's quite incredible of the change that's occurring and is going to occur in the next 3 weeks. So as we move forward, this is a diagram that Greg and I talked about. And basically what it does is it just shows you opportunity of what we have in space, of what can go where and how it can go there. But what people don't understand is that it's all about allocation, and it's all about the process of making sure that you have the funds to protect each process as you go along. So as we move forward, the first charge that we had was Phase A. Phase A is this right here. This is our school. And right now, we are moving forward in a dramatic pace after having conversation with our CM. You probably got 8 of their people out there right now supervising every group there is. And the pace has picked up unbelievably. And it's an expectation that I hold them very tight to, because I expect our boys and girls to be in that school and go through the school for the remaining of the spring. Now, Shirley, I'm not going to tell you a date, okay? No. And the reason I'm not going to tell you a date is because what's happening is that as we push further and further and things start happening more and more, that timeline is flip-flopping. So what was behind is now 2 weeks ahead. And that's the pace of what we're going to go at from this point. And we're very blessed not to be waiting on a pile of things to hold us up. Yes, there's some doors the glass rolling garage doors that go in the college and career. And the reason you don't have your tin roof on these parts right here is because of a metal facial piece and insulation that goes at the bottom of it. It's not because we don't have it, it's just the bottom piece that connects it all together. Well, they found it. So that is fixing to happen. But I'm going to ask you not to go because I want you to have that wow factor, because it's going to be a wow factor. Now, as we progressively move forward, this was a guaranteed maximum price, okay? What happens in here is this also has to be added in there, and that has to be added in there. So as we move forward, those are the things that we are working on to offset what we're having to put back into the school. So, for example, when you talk about looking at CARES funding and looking at outside resources, the CARES funding has become a major resource for this school right here. Right now, Ms. Clements has obtained, just in her doing, by creating the verbiage and putting it in there, $3.3 million that goes in this school that we would have had to pay for that we don't have to pay for. As we do that, what happens is that when you start looking at Phase B and we start looking at athletic facilities, yes, this has changed. Now, your tennis courts sit over here, okay? That process is in place, that money has been allocated, it is sitting. I built it inside the GMP on a secret note. So that way it was secure, and we knew we had it. The difference is, like we discussed earlier, Matt discussed, is it going to be fully ready? Could very well be. Got a great shot at it. If the weather turns bad, it might be where we play on blacktop, and then have to wait till it gets warmer to put the top coat of purple on top of it. And I can tell you all of what that looks like, because I want you to see it when it's done. As we move forward, I told the community when they asked, but I explained to y'all, this is a one-time deal. You're never going to be in this situation again to be able to afford what you can afford now, or what you look at as an opportunity to be able to afford. So yes, in my due diligence, I put things in like a stadium to say, okay, what would it look like if we laid it out? Well, the opportunity was Greg laid it out that it would sit right off that parking, and that would save almost $850,000 in parking to sit it right there. The difference is, I don't know where we're at with that based off of funding and what the board and the community want as we move forward. So that has now moved, and this baseball softball combo will sit right here. AstroTurf Field will sit right here. Now, by the good Lord's blessing and y'all's blessing, we picked up more opportunity. This allows us to expand. That you could very easily fit a stadium in right here and put it right there. If that's what the community sees fit and that's what y'all see fit, you have the availability for your fields right here. We're going to put a nice golf range right here, put a net right here so those golfers can hit off of a hill into the net, because we don't have a place to play golf, but you have the field capability. This is also secure in funding. Okay? So this and this is secure.
Baseball and tennis.
Now you're showing two.
I'm showing you two because this was the original scope of what it looked like. It is a softball, baseball, AstroTurf combo. And so that will, I'm just showing you because he just threw it together. And I just wanted to show you what it would have looked like.
Public to realize.
That's exactly right. Because I have to be able to show you what the opportunities are. And as we move forward, then we make decisions on what it is that the community wants to see in this process, and then that allows us to figure out what is it that we need to do to be able to afford that.
So the only things that are locked in, tennis courts and the combo.
Tennis courts right there, and a combo baseball, softball field, and these fields.
So the practice fields are.
Absolutely. Now, great question, because that leads into the next thing. Y'all, there are so many different opportunities we're gonna have to talk about, because you have these practice fields in here, but let's say that we decided, the community and the board decided, no, we don't want to build a stadium out there. But we had money that was left over. Well, it might be more advantageous to turn this into an AstroTurf field. And now soccer's got a place to play. People have a place to practice on. Band's got a place to practice on, but you also have grass and you have AstroTurf. These are the type of things we need to be thinking about as we move forward in resources. Right now, if we were going to AstroTurf the field at our stadium, it would be $3 million. It is on a swamp. You will have to dig the entire right side of the armory up and make that a retention pond. You'll have to dig down 6 foot and bring it back up 12. But y'all, where's the water going to go? It's still going to back up from the sewer side. And that's the resource of what we have to start looking at, is it's starting to wash out the wayside bleachers, underneath the bleachers.
Have you gotten an idea of what something new?
So I'm going off of what other people have put in place. For example, Cook County, Peach County, that just did stadiums. That is a AstroTurf field, a brand new track, lights, stadium seating, press boxes, concession stand and bathroom for $5 million. So in that process, that does not say a football field house. Okay? But that says all the other resources. Now, I don't know what that pricing would be right now. They just got done, but I don't know what the pricing is right now. And those are the things we're going to have to talk about and look at as we finish these projects. Okay? Now I'm going to throw you a big curveball in here now. I talked to you that there's 2 other projects that must be done this summer. They have to be done, y'all. And that's renovations of the primary and the middle. So you want to talk about more blessings. When Dawn went to Gasbo, because of the outstanding job she's doing with CARES, they have, quote, broadened the availability to use CARES funding in certain aspects of what you're doing to remodernize schools because of COVID and those things like that. Here's the difference. There's a new law that says if I have state money, I cannot conform it with federal money. So I can't say that I want to build this room right here, but I want to make it as double big and use state money on this side of it and federal money on this side of it. You can't do that. I can say I'm going to build this room and then build a separate building, but it becomes a separate project. All right, here's the difference. When you use this project, that's an architect and that's your builder. That cost for this building. It's a separate cost, architect and builder, under the Davis-Bacon Act for federal dollars. What the Davis-Bacon Act does is it allows for different compensations for workers through federal allocations based off of that. So the way I can tell you is this: if you were making $18 an hour as an electrician in this room on a state job, you could make $30 an hour on the federal job. So what happens is that federal project now becomes an enormous amount of paperwork on my behalf, which is fine. But it also becomes an issue where you now have to hire a federal person to oversee on top of everything else. But that's what the money's for, if that makes sense. Even though it costs more money, that's what the money's there for to do, is spend. We didn't create the laws, the legislature created the laws. In that factor, when I talk about renovation, that's what I'm trying to lay out right now, is now that they've broadened it, what would be 2.6 million in just air conditioning replacing at both schools, I can pay under the Davis-Bacon and use CARES. Now, if I can paint, do lights, do ceiling, and use Davis-Bacon and pay for those, I still have an allocation of $500,000 apiece for both schools under state money. So I'm trying to figure out if, to utilize that money to help us, which projects are going to be coordinated under that, and then which projects will be coordinated under the federal side of it. But it all depends on our plan as we rewrite it to submit it back to the state for them to approve us to use CARES funds on those projects. Okay? So it goes back to timing. Everything's going back to timing. I have to go to bid and order air conditioners if I'm going to have them sitting there ready to go at May. You see where I'm going? It's a very time-consuming process. It's a very tedious process, and it's going to require a lot. But I wanted to give you a background understand of why it's so important when we look at allocations, because it still comes back to it's ELOS or it's general fund that we're putting towards renovation based off of that if CARES was not there. So now that CARES is there, it's now going back and reconfiguring our plan and applying for it, getting that approval. Did I lose you?
So do we have construction people in place to do our renovations so they're ready to go?
Under your CM process, they would be the construction manager for those renovations. We've already laid it out, what it looks like. The difference is the allocations of what I'll pay for, because it'll be a totally different bid project from a state project to a Davis-Bacon project. Okay? And it has to be very specific because the state's going to check it. They're going to make sure you aren't mingling state funds, especially in capital outlay. And but this has got to happen. It's got to happen fast.
So the work session that we've been in talking about these renovations for some time, the contracts that we currently have in place need to be reworked a little bit to be able to include these two different funding sources?
So great question, Ms. Shirley. Myself and Greg sat down and added all these scopes. That's why that's exactly why I'm showing you that right there. That stadium. Because it's in the scope. So now I don't have to go back and revisit that and apply for that to do that as a separate project again. It would be called for as a separate project, but it's in the scope of work of what we've outlined. Because if you don't, then you run into problems like that. So in that process,
So do we have to rebid, or we get to keep our same people that we've been working with?
no ma'am, we get to keep the same people we're working with based off the contract that we had them as a CM.
Okay.
Now,
That
there
includes our
is-
architect?
and the same architect, yes, that's the difference. Is you have to have an architect for a project that's pretty much $150,000 or more. You've got to have an architect. The difference is under the CM process, you still have the opportunity to go to the CM, or you could go with bid build. But under that process, you have to understand, if you're going with the CM, you still have the same fee, and it's different projects for the same fee. It's not just one project. See, this was all phase A. That's one project. Okay? That was included in there, and that was included in there. Okay? So I built those in there to be included in this project. If I wouldn't have, and we would have just built this, we would have had to separately bid this out and paid an architect fee and CM fee, and separately bid this out to pay a CM and architect fee. Does that make sense? Yes.
This is probably a sore subject. But you remember when we first started talking about all this, and the first thing we saw, the first thing we talked about the gym.
Yes,
And I asked about the wrestling,
yes,
and it wasn't exactly one, I don't think, drawn in then.
yes.
But we decided we could put them under the bleachers or somewhere. But if there was money available, we were going to be able to put the wrestling program in a location of its own. Do we have one anywhere in there?
So, here's the difference, Ms. Martha, is that's the conversation, is what do you want Phase C to be? Do you want it to be a fabricated building that sits right here that hosts all of your wrestling, indoor hitting facilities, whatever else we need, ROTC, whatever else? Do you want that instead of that? These are the conversations we're going to have. And we haven't gotten there yet, but we have to have them. So after the first of the year, we're going to be having these conversations so that we can determine what it is we want to do and how we want to do it. Because it all comes down.
How will we get the input of the community?
Well,
You said we definitely
I think
want
it's back to an issue of this, is that
surveys.
we put surveys out, we can have a work session, allow people to come and voice their opinions based off of that, put the projects out there, and we can talk about it. And that's what we're supposed to do, just like when we went to the opportunity to have it out here. We talked about it, and it, look
I
what it
think
was.
let's be sure we engage our coaches and our staff, and I'll use wrestling since Ms. Martha brought that up. I mean, let's go to that program, say, okay, we know y'all been looking for a spot for a long time, you know, instead of bouncing around. Are you satisfied where you're at?
Right.
You know, if the Army, and I mean, I'm speaking as if they probably are satisfied where they're at, if we're saying, hey, this is your home, stay here.
Correct.
Right?
That's
So
right.
I think we need to do that instead of us saying, hey, we want to build you something new. They may be happy.
I'm 100% behind you. And this is what we all have to look at, and we all have to look at what everybody's wants are versus what the actual need is versus what we had originally planned and what we put money into and things like that. And that's when Mr. Gary asked me to give you an idea of what we're looking at, and that's basically where we're at.
One more question. So will we, if the community decided that they want to have a AstroTurf stadium, that right there, will we have to run another SPLOST referendum?
Great question, sure. So that will be another conversation as we move forward. And Mr. Jim will probably nod his head and look at it from the standpoint that you sold an amount of bonds. And when you sold them, we had a blessing and we received this amount of money over top of those bonds. In this point in time, we have been paying all that interest down. So when you think about it, and you think about this being done and these projects being done, that time period will have passed to start bringing that down. The difference is that, Jim, you can tell me different. You can't retake bonds out on that, but you could sell more bonds. Is that correct?
That's right, you can refinance some others too.
So, okay,
That's probably what you want to look at.
yes.
Since some of the rate now is like 1.35.
So that's the conversations that we're going to have to talk about after the first of the year, because that's going to be the next planning phase. Y'all, this is not just a overnight here, I'm going to give you a new school here by spring, and we're done. This is a 36-month project of building facilities, doing renovations, and building whatever facilities you want after that. It's going to take a while, and it's going to be a lot of discussion.
And I'd like to say that you too, you know, I know everybody like to be in there by January, but I think we all probably would say, let's be sure we get it done and get it done right and correct and not rush.
Exactly.
I mean,
There's a major plan in place. Us and Parish are on the same plan. the people that are gone in charge of furniture, those things, CTAE, College and Career Furniture, weights, you know, auditorium, all that's on a plan of our schedule. And that's what, you bring up a great point, because I can't sit here and tell you when we're gonna be in. I have an idea, but it could be sooner than that. It could be a little behind that. But we got a big ballpark, and these people are waiting on go. They got the material. They're just waiting for us to say, okay, well, we're gonna do it in phases. So as we complete this phase, we get a punch list cleared off from the architect, it's clear, then we'll move furniture, then we'll go over here. So as they're still working on these parts, we're setting these parts up and completing them, and nobody's coming in the building. Then when we get it all done, then we'll have a date where our staff comes in and prepares themselves, then a date for when the kids are.
Around what time you think?
See?
No, I ain't saying the date, around what time? March, April?
Well, let me say this, to make it even matter. If we're only gonna be in the building for maybe 2 months,
Y'all aren't gonna change your mind. Those kids deserve.
Believe me, if you get them in 2 months, you work a lot of kinks out, too, for the following full year,
that's true, we do.
possibly.
I'll have it ready. There's some other things out here. We're talking with grants with a smaller ag barn area. Things like that we will look at putting in place for the CCA. We've got a lot to do in a short period of time as far as in some cases, but we do need to look at all avenues, y'all. And I mean this, and Mr. Juan brought it up today, and Miss Dr. Stone will tell you, our board office is not getting younger. You walk in Dr. Stone's office, and this is the honest to goodness truth. I had Ashley come in and look at it, and we thought it was just the moisture in the boards that was bowing them up. And you can walk towards your desk and you'll actually trip and fall because it sits, if the floor's here, the boards are now here. It's not.
You gotta take that, Gary. You gotta take that, just know we went to 8th grade then. Can't be that old.
It's old. I put a piece of furniture in my office, and they came in today and looked at it, and they were like, "Is your floor uneven?" Because the piece of furniture, instead of sitting this way, it sits this way.
It was like that in 1970.
And
Well, that's 1936.
Yeah.
That building.
Same wax on the floor.
so what's happening is the building's actually settling into the rafters, and the rafters are pushing themselves up to the floor. You can't fix that. No. It would cost you 4 times what that building's worth to fix something like that. So when I tell you it's a one-time deal and it's a project of 36 months, there ain't no telling what we're going to end up looking at. But we have to look at it all. And I have to bring it to your attention to look at it all. Okay? All right, y'all good?
Can I say something?
Ben, go ahead.
I know I talk way too much, that's why I became a teacher. About not getting our kids in the building, I came here in that building, and 8 years ago was an instructional coach and had the ceiling fall in on top of me while I was in my office. Right now, when it rains, our students are walking the halls, we've got trash cans in the hallways catching water, right now, when it rains.
Yes.
Our kids deserve As soon as we can get them in that building, and get them out of the building they're in, they deserve it. We need to get them in there.
So, we got a plan, we're putting it forward. I'll be coming back to you with more and more and more. And, after the first year, it's gonna be quite busy. Quite busy. Okay? All right. Any other questions about that? I'm sorry it took up so much of your time. Okay?
Thanks, sir. I entertain a motion to approve a purchase order for the AEDs.
Motion.
Motion second, any discussion? And that's $29,070. Are all those in favor of the purchase order signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve a purchase order to Mike Cook Electric. That's $32,450.96. And that is to move the server room from the old elementary building to a new location. Is there a motion so we can discuss?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion second, now discussion.
Where's the new location?
Where's the new location?
Yes, sir. If you haven't been in that old building, we looked at it and we were looking at different things we could do with it, but since all these new avenues came up with the new school and those resources, y'all, what's happening is that roof line is steadily leaking. And as you walk down the hall, it's going further and further. So the chairs, the server room is probably where Miss Shirley is to the server room. If water gets on that server, you haven't seen the cost yet. So what we are asking is to approve us to take that and the fiber and the generator system and move it to the gym in a secure area where we can have it that's under a good building and put it in that back side of the gym.
The elementary school, I mean, they're at the same
Yes,
time.
sir.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. The cost factor is the fiber.
All right.
Are there any offices, or just the server room? Or any
Just the
offices
servers.
being used?
It's just,
Just your equipment.
Yes.
just if you're standing at my maintenance building, looking at the back of the gym, there's two rooms right there on the back side. One's got files in it, the other one's been used for storage. And I took Matt out there and he thought it was a great place to put it. I mean, you got block walls, block and brick walls, metal roof, you know, it'd be there for a long time.
Air conditioner?
Air conditioner, it's got one, and my plan is it's got a 4-ton unit, wall unit on it like these, and I gotta put a backup in there, but those 2 units that were put in the old server room, me and Peyton talked about it, we're gonna pull those out and install them in there you gotta have some kind of backup, you know what I mean? I'm assuming that building will be there for a long, long time, you know, it's block and brick and metal roof, and you know, we just done a major patch job on the server room, I don't know, a couple of months ago. And, I mean, we went in there and there was water literally running down the walls on the electrical panel. You know, we got it stopped, but like I told Matt, Mr. Harrelson, I have no idea how long it will last. We peeled it back, and it's got metal beams, metal roof, and then it's got that fabric, whatever on top of the rocks, and we peeled it all back, and the metal was rusted completely out, so I mean, we done the best patch job we could. It held in that 6 inches of rain. Can't tell you how long it hold. So,
The new site will have the appropriate security.
yeah, it's got 2 doors on it. Basically, it'll be a lot more secure than where it's at now.
Right, and we've gotten a couple quotes on some actual security systems, camera-based and monitoring and that sort of thing too.
Somebody did it, yeah.
And that's all that, you know, that area, you know, it's not used for anything. It's separated from the gym. You know, it's just on that back wall from the gym. It's part of the building, but it's not connected to the gym. It's the outside entrance.
Outside entrance.
And we gotta move the generator, you know, and that stuff over there, so I'm gonna put all that in. There's a transformer sitting on the corner of the building. I got planned stuff, fence all that in, so it'll all be secure.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of the purchase order from Mike Cook to move the server room, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. All right, we have a request for a first reading of policy DJED, and on bids and quotation, that is upping the limit from 10,000 to 50,000. Is that the major issue of it?
That's basically what it is. It becomes a timing issue nowadays. And we piloted this with y'all, and you gave us the opportunity when we were looking at the technology. It worked wonderfully. We've been able to order things, get them secured, and get them in and have dates. Y'all, as we move forward, this opportunity will allow us to be able to do so much more. And then we'll give you the report each month when we come to the meeting, as we're doing with the technology spending. But that opportunity, you wait 4 weeks, it's just like the electrical job. You wait 2 days and that price changes of what we just approved. So I'm asking the board to approve this policy that we put in place, and it's becoming very, very common across school systems because of the need to be able to get things.
And it will not be an audit exception or
No, ma'am.
a problem with auditors, outside auditors?
No, ma'am.
What's the reason that purchases of medical equipment, textbooks, computers, software would be excluded? Because that's what we were giving, was the computers on the other deal. What about vehicles? Would vehicles be included?
Yes, sir. I was looking at it from a standpoint, I missed it. I was looking at it just from the standpoint of the $50,000. It didn't matter what the overall process was. The availability was that we'd be able to approve up to $50,000, give you the report each month like we've been doing, but anything over $50,000, we had to have your approval.
And I understand that includes a single purchase or a group of purchase, I mean, a conglomerate of
Yes, sir.
purchases under one invoice.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And that's still 2 or 3 quotes or what?
Basically, anything over that process would be. Yes, we'll still follow the same guidelines. It's just, I would have the availability to approve it and then bring it to you to show you what we spent it on, as we're normally doing now. It's just a difference of, we were putting all these things on a line item and taking 4 weeks, it's absolutely destroying us if we wait that long. Matt, you can speak of it just from a technology standpoint. We can't get resources right now, and when we do have the availability, and I can't get that availability to go ahead and approve that and move forward with it, it's changing on us very fast.
We haven't had many big purchases that have actually come in. You know, we'll work on those products, but I was talking to Jeremy before the meeting started. Our panel orders were like probably the last largest orders. We wanted to get those in the summer. We just now got the primary school installed last month because we just had to wait on the stuff to come in.
That's correct.
What's the difference whenever we get asked for a vote, a full vote, on hiring somebody versus this?
The difference is that when we approve a budget, y'all approve a budget every year. Based off of that budget, we allocate that money already based off strategic plan, and then they allocate it from that point into their schools, into their school improvement plans. The difference is, if I can't give them that resource because times have changed, then we're affecting those teachers and those boys and girls. All I'm asking for is, you're still going to get the same report. I'm just going to be able to approve it at a shorter period of time, and you've already approved the budget for us to be able to spend it.
How about that first line, Dr. Harrelson? The first couple. About informal quotes are acceptable.
Yes, that gives us the availability to look at things that would come in that we wouldn't have to sit there
Get
and
through the
wait
process.
for 30 days like Matt's having to do right now with procurement on the state website. I mean, that right there could really affect us in a negative way. And that's why this is the same contract that Lowndes County has, that Cook County has, that Colquitt has. And we've discussed this at numerous superintendent meetings, and the resources of what we're looking at is that it's just the availability to be able to get the resources at the time we get it. And you approve the budget, we put it in our strategic plan, put it in the school improvement plan, it's all outlined, audit-wise, it's all right there, and then we're giving you the same report each month based off of what we spend it on. The difference is that I'm approving it at a faster rate than what it would be to bring it to the board at a 4-week allocation. And I understand the poll vote piece of it, but
Yeah, because
it's not
they just say
always,
that you can approve something that is $49,000,
right.
okay? But you're gonna have the same identical thing for somebody that's 52,000. Are you gonna wait for a week for, or are you gonna let us know? That's what I'm saying, why
Right.
can't we just get that
Well,
information?
if we're gonna look at that, then why don't we just kick it up to 150,000, then I won't have to worry about it, because I won't have anything to worry about that wouldn't be
But
over
then
that.
do worse, but that's what I'm saying, why can't we just get a poll vote, like we do?
Because what happens is when we go to get it and we need it, at that point, it might take us 48 to 72 hours to get a hold of all of y'all. Oh, yeah. It's not as easy as what you think.
We got a motion second. Discussion. All right, back to the line of what's excluded from this requirement. What does that mean? That purchases of textbooks, regardless of the cost, would still have to be approved?
Yeah, because your textbooks are gonna be 350,000, 400,000 if you were buying them for a school based off of that. So it'll be excluded.
Well, we've done some for less than $50,000.
You have, but it hasn't been a whole set. If you were looking for the availability of buying for a whole grade level, that's a different ballgame than buying for a class or a couple of classes.
If we had medical equipment that was $40,000, you'd still have to get approval before you bought it under
No.
this? But what's excluded?
That's the
From
difference
this
is,
requirement.
I don't know, I'll be honest with you, I missed over that line of it. When I looked at it, and I asked to be put in there, it was just an issue that I was able to approve up to $50,000 based off of that. And,
And I'm confused about that line, Tom.
Tony,
I don't know what it means.
you wanna help me out?
I didn't, that policy was given to me to just review. I think it was a policy that came from another school district, and that was
Yeah.
already in there. So I just kind of tweaked it a little bit, to, one, kind of answer Mr. Meadowing's question as to the 50,000 or less. The original way it was written was that it would just be the superintendent could just, approve any expenditure for 50,000 or less, but I added language in there to say that there would need to be at least 2 quotes received before the approval could be made. But that provision as to the exclusion, I don't know, I can't speak on that.
We could modify it, send it back out to you, it's a first read, we'll get it back in your hands tomorrow.
Okay. I mean, I just don't understand what it means.
Basically, there's expenditures in there that might be towards different things that would require different way of looking at things. I mean, if I went out and just bought, $40,000 worth of saline packs so that we can give IVs to everybody, that's probably not the smartest thing we've ever heard of. So when you look at medical and things like that, that could be some of those issues.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of first read and laying this on the table for 30 days, signify by saying aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Now, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I just
ma'am.
want to make sure I understand, so whatever these questions are that you guys are having about this exception, that's going to be reviewed.
We'll try to get this clarified within the 30 days.
All right, thank you.
So there could be some changes in it.
Okay, but it's approved for the first reading.
Correct.
Does that mean that we would have to do, if the changes were significant, would we have to do another first read and lay it on the table for another 30 days?
It would eventually be a different, policy.
I'm just,
Okay, we'll see. All right, moving to ratify the prior action for approval of purchase order to American Book Company, and that was in the amount of $20,846.96, and that would be paid out of CARES 3. Entertain a motion to approve that ratification.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion?
the only discussion that I have, and it says one book, so surely that's not one book for 20,000.
No, ma'am. It's one set, unit set.
It was one unit set for all students that are currently in Georgia Milestones classes, which would be U.S. History, Biology, Algebra 1, and American Literature.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So that would be a prime example right there of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Is what I'm asking is that I would be able to approve this, show you at the next meeting that I approved this, but it would not be a whole grade level that was $150,000. It would just be up to this, that would be a grade level set that might be imperative that we need to get it, and they've got it, but that timeline, they might not have it. And that's why I'm asking what I'm asking. But I'll get the verbiage fixed.
All those in favor of the ratification, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. All right, we have a request from maternity leave as information. We have your upcoming events. We have a work session next Monday night, 6 o'clock, to talk about redistricting. You got your emails out. You've got your maps that you looked at. We'll have bigger blown up maps that you can look at better.
Okay.
Now, do I have a need all the way available online for questions, or do you want to wait?
I think we can do our meeting first. And those maps are draft copies where they had reconfigured the districts. Little red dots show where you live in your district. And but they're trying to equate the numbers, the voting numbers. They've done a pretty good job with it, I think. Anyway, we can still gerrymander if we want to, so we'll look at those. We've got 3 people going to GSBA in person. Regular meeting December the 14th. Might we have another call meeting for a work session for anything between now and the end of the year?
Yes, sir. I called for a work session the Monday before the December meeting.
Okay.
15th of So you want another one before the?
Now, I need a work session
On the 13th.
on the 13th before the 14th.
Okay. Okay, for a work session on the 13th, 6 o'clock.
So we're still gonna have the other work session?
You're still, that, yes,
Two
ma'am,
work
they're two
sessions?
different ones, that's not a redistrict.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we got whole board training for Risa 27th. Moving into personnel, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ratification. That's those first 6 items that are on there, that were some earlier votes, poll votes that were taken. Entertain a motion to approve those first 6 items.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the employment of Trina Johnson as community coach, to employ Trina Johnson as a bus monitor, to approve Timothy Heitzman, to approve Otis Wilson, Lakin Rogers, Kyle Kraus, and Kelsey Wright. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion second, discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the resignation of Kristen Roundtree.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
We got an addition.
I'm sorry. I was going to mention that we skipped the maternity leave.
No, it's
I
not
missed
right.
it?
He meant it.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair, we did have an amendment under new business, and that is the athletic apparel and equipment agreement that we will have in place with Baker Sports. Myself and Mr. Sims and Coach McDonald met with them, and they have done an outstanding job of meeting with several resources out there that will do apparel and outfitting for our new school. And Baker Sports, without a doubt, has offered the best opportunity for our school system and our boys and girls to be successful. And we have already sent this to Tony. Now we will send it back to them, but it's pretty essential that we go ahead and get your approval to go ahead and go with Baker's. We'll get the contract completed as she's already looked at it, and they'll be getting it first thing in the morning. But this will help us move forward based off of needs for our boys and girls for the spring.
Is that for uniforms or for?
So it is for all of them.
To give you something right here.
Huh?
To give you something.
So it includes essentially anything that the athletic department would purchase would be covered under that. That goes from uniforms to spirit packs, to bleachers, to branding of the new school. So in July, we had a vendor approach us about signing what they call an all-school deal. And Coach McDonald and I ended up meeting with the 3 companies or vendors that do business in South Georgia with all the high schools. And they kind of competed against each other. They put a proposal forth, each one. Then Coach McDonald and I went back to the 2 that were behind and said, hey, look, you're behind, sweeten the deal. Anyway, we went through it all. But essentially what this does is it allows us to be better stewards of money. So right now when we go out and buy a uniform, we pay full price. Well, by signing an agreement with them, we get heavily discounted prices off of the MSRP. If at the new school, we're going to be running a school store out of the school where we employ student workers. But we have to have somebody that has a larger capability than what we have to produce some of those goods. that would allow them to do this. They run online stores, so you could actually, if you don't want to go visit the store, you could go online, you could purchase it. But that money comes to us. Every team, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, has to have some type of shoe, from a cleat to a basketball shoe. Well, instead of, Hal's boy having to go pay $125 somewhere now, well, the shoe might be $125, but we're going to get it at 40% off of that because we're giving them all of our business. The other thing is we get what I'll call a rebate back for the amount of money that we spend. So you spend X amount of money, you get X% back. So you get the discounts up front, you get rebates at the end. To sign that agreement, they've offered us a number of what I would call pot sweeteners up front, $10,000 up front. They're offering us $20,000 the first year, a total of $30,000 over 5 years to go towards branding, which was very important to us because you have a brand new school that's a blank canvas right now. So we're going to have to spend a lot of money on branding. But essentially anything that you could think of, and they go beyond athletics, anything that would go into a school minus maybe, the office furniture and things like that, but they purchase. The other thing, and Mr. Sermons might be able to speak to this as having been there recently, when you have coaches buying from all different places, it's very hard as the principal or the athletic director to track everything that's going. So we'll get a bill that we didn't even know about. Now you don't have a purchase order. Now you're talking about an audit fine. If we streamline to one place, we're going to know every purchase that comes through. We're going to have a quote for everything. You don't have to worry about audit fines because you're only dealing with one company. But every single team benefits from this because everything they would normally be paying 100% price for, they're going to be paying 25% less, 35% less, 40% less.
That includes our cheerleaders?
Yes, ma'am.
It includes parental availability. They'll open a window that each sport, before the sport begins, parents can go online, order what they want.
The other thing it does is, because we order from so many different places right now, the purple is different everywhere.
Yes.
The gold is different everywhere. Well, we go to one spot, the logo stays the same, you don't get skewed logos, the colors stay the same, the branding throughout, and while we're talking about the high school, other schools could also buy from there, and it only really sweetens the deal from us, but everything stays the same. You're not trying to buy from all these different places. This company also owns multiple other sub-companies like Burbank Nets. So if you're talking about putting up a dual baseball softball field, they do turf. They do all the netting that you would need around it. You're talking about golf, they do that as well. If you're talking about building a stadium, they do all that stuff as well. And everything we would get at a discounted price from what we are currently paying it right now. And let's not kid ourselves, the price of everything's going up. So any type of discount we can get is going to help us be better stewards of taxpayers' money, whether that's through you in a budget or through kids when they go out and fundraise, and you raise money. Well, we need to do the best job we can at getting them the best price possible.
Dave, just to clarify this is if we buy anything in the system now. Students and families are able to go out and buy their own gear.
But we can stock the store.
Right,
Take a polo.
Right.
We can stock that polo in our store at our discounted price.
Right.
Now, we might upcharge it $5 so the school makes money for the school store,
Right.
so we can pay our student employees, but they're still going to get it cheaper through us than if they went
to
somewhere
understand
else.
though, if they choose to go wear Nike, that's fine.
Right, and that's the other thing we avoided. One of the companies wanted us to commit to a specific brand,
Right.
and we said we didn't do that. Right now, one of our basketball teams is Nike, one is Adidas, the football team's Adidas.
Right.
With that deal, they would be able to stay with whatever brand because that company deals with multiple brands.
Good deal.
It is absolutely one of the best deals I've seen in being in sports for as long as I've been in.
Okay, but this is a memo of understanding or just a promo, right? This is not the actual contract with Bakers.
That would be the contract. Now,
So, no,
Tony's got
that-
amendments.
Yeah, I got it this afternoon, and And so I made changes this afternoon, and I was told to bring the
So this is not a contract, this is just an
Yeah.
intent?
Yes, ma'am.
It's titled proposal, but it's essentially a contract that they want you to sign. But I've made amendments to it, and like I said, when I got it this afternoon and was able to amend it and get it back, I was told just to bring that one original to the board meeting tonight. So it actually looks like this. This
So what did you amend? Anything big?
Well,
Is that what you done?
a couple of things. So as you can see, it is essentially a 5.5-year contract, and the only termination that's provided is if there's a breach that is not cured. Well, what you'll learn is I'm not a big fan of my clients being stuck in multi-year contracts where they cannot get out of it. So I did amend that to reflect that we should be able to terminate the contract upon 30 days written notice. And again, these are proposed changes that have to go back to Baker's Ford. That is one of the major amendments. Now, everything that Mr. Sims mentioned as far as your discounts and everything, that remains the core.
So the big thing is we can get out of it.
And governing law, they're in Jacksonville, so they wanted
That's another thing.
to utilize Florida law, and I changed that to the state of Georgia, Indiana County, because that's where we are.
Ma'am?
Yeah, that's what I was concerned about. Not only are we not gonna have this money going to local merchants, which I understand that. But I was worried about the state thing.
Well, I would change it anyway. I mean, that's just something that I propose changing anyway, so.
So we need a motion based on that document.
Is there a minimum that required per year that we have to purchase?
No, there's no minimum. The only type of required purchase would be, we get the money up front, but to get the rebates at the end, we have to spend so much. But we do not, there is no minimum amount that we have to purchase to qualify for what they're giving us up front, or say we have to pay it back. It's just, to get your rebates at the end, you have to get. But y'all, when you're looking at, let's say, one set of football uniforms, and I'm talking basic as they come stock, with 70 players and all that, pants, top, you're looking at bare minimum $30,000. And that's at full price. Now that's just regular stock. More likely 50, James, if you do just beyond just the basic. So if you look at buying a uniform, and football is the largest cost, you'll see in there. So one of the things they are offering us is a buy one, get one free for football, because that cost is so astronomical for us. The other, like basketball, you might have 20 players, varsity JV, it's probably somewhere between $70, $100 for a short and a top. Well, at 30, 40% off, that's a lot less money that we'll have to pay to get that. And again, it's a number of brands, but there is no minimum fee.
Okay, my concern is with parents having to purchase. Now, back in my day, cheerleading uniforms were made by local seamstress. Now, if I got a child, I'm just saying. But what I'm saying, if you gotta have two of those, I just wanna make sure that they're gonna be in the price range.
We buy uniforms. The school does.
For the child?
Yes, ma'am.
How many uniforms do they have?
I know we bought cheerleaders uniforms in the spring of because you have so many sports, we're on a uniform rotation. Cheerleaders, I know last got them it was the spring I was the athletic director, so the spring 2019. So it's a 3-year, 4-year rotation.
So parents don't ever have to buy.
Yes, ma'am.
Parents don't ever have to buy cheerleading uniforms.
Look for the best price? Are we just, wholeheartedly committed to Baker Sports, even though you may have a vendor that can better their price or match their price?
That goes back to the same old issue of inconsistency that we're dealing with now, is that this coach goes over here to this vendor because they might know them and give them a little better price, and then this one goes over here to this one because they know them, and now we got things that are completely different all over again. This brings all consistency under one umbrella, and yes, it might be what you consider to be higher over here than this vendor over here, but in the long run, in the overall process, it's gonna bring everything down based off of what they're giving us and what we're able to get. And it'll bring the price down where it evens out over the long period of time.
So the recommendation of Jason, David, and Dr. Harrelson, what's your recommendation?
Can I have one thing from Mr. Palmer? And it's not in there, and we can have them correct that, but I know in the meeting today with me, Coach McDonald, Mr. Harrelson, they will price match.
It is on letter D under the equipment.
Exactly.
Most apparel is priced pretty much the same equipment, so you don't have a lot of variance in the cost. They will price match any advertised price on the equipment.
So do we have a list of their current prices, I guess, because, you know, once you lock it in, then, you know, their prices, you know, go up, you know.
So they, Mr. Palmer, they send us their catalogs from their brands, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, which is the same. And that's the interesting part when we went through this process. All three vendors we used the same brands. They all get the same catalog, the same MSRP price. So what they were willing to do beyond that, to me and Coach McDonald, Dr. Harrelson, was, no, you want our business. Because they all get the same MSRP price. They send us the same catalogs. I'm looking at Adidas from Baker's. It's the same as Adidas from this company. Where the difference is in what they were willing to do for us.
Al says, I guess, you know, for football, they receive buy one, get one uniforms. Year two, they purchase Nike, Adidas uniforms only. That, you know.
That's in there because our football team wants to be Adidas, because every piece of uniform, cleat, glove, clothing, apparel that they've bought, at the very least since Coach Pruitt's been here, is Adidas. So if we switch to another brand, we would have to redo everything. So originally they proposed Under Armour, and the reason it highlights Adidas is because in talking with Coach Pruitt, he said, no, we want to stay Adidas because it would cost us too much money to switch.
Yeah, the difference is, like, if you use a BSN and people like that, they only allow you to use one person. And that might not be what's a quality uniform, like a cheerleading uniform under that particular company. And it might be a better for our Under Armour in that cheerleading uniform and be a better quality. So that's another additive of what they're bringing to the table. But it's all consistency. It's still the same color, it's still the same logo, and it's still the same benefits of what we're looking for.
Barton, you ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion that we accept the ratify or the changes.
Second.
You don't see, that's this one, not the one you got. This is one that Tony has modified.
Contract.
All right, there's a second.
You need another one, you got another one, Gary?
That's on one, that's the.
Oh, this
that's
is, okay.
Don't sign it.
Debbie says she'd send it out tomorrow. You already got a motion.
You signed it, here's the
All
pen.
right, got a motion, second.
That's pretty different. Second.
All right, discussion. All right, we're talking about marketing, we're talking about branding. You know where I'm going, should we have be having a discussion
So
at some point in time about trademarking, our logo, our colors, our names,
It's actually,
those kind of things?
it's actually,
We're
was
having
part
a
of,
school
that's
store.
part of our
it
discussion.
was part of the conversation
Yes.
today.
You know, we talked about it 10 or 12 years ago.
We did.
And that will be a whole another thing after we agree to this, of how that happens with Ms. Sawyer in that process.
But that's for our protection, though.
That's correct.
That's protecting.
For all these years,
Yeah.
you just let everybody have whatever, and then I've tracked it down several times, and it comes back, well, we got it from this person. But yet, they don't have any paperwork that says it was theirs, so why is it ours if we're a school system? And then when you've got everybody buying from different places, it's impossible to bring back that trademark. If you get under one umbrella, all this was the discussion of how we'll bring it about and make it a trademark from that point.
And this is, again, just uniforms.
This is uniforms, this is
Footwear, apparel,
footwear, this
accessory,
is
uniforms.
socks.
Everything that goes along with the uniform.
Yeah.
Right, but it's also scoring tables, it's branding, it's the netting that goes around the tennis walls, the nets that go across.
This will
branding.
have nothing to do with killing our local guys with the t-shirts and all.
No,
Okay, perfect.
no.
Good.
But if you buy from the school store, you could be buying from the school store at a discount, right?
Yes, sir.
Public could buy from the school store.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And it's saying there too, the boosters get that discount.
Yes, sir.
Right, good deal.
Again, it's an avenue of choice, you can still do that now.
If they know that logo, can independent person like Sykes or somebody use that logo?
So, yes, that's the way the whole thing is now, Mr. Jim, is that I don't know who owns it, who doesn't. I just know the school owns it based off it being their logo, but we gotta get Tony involved to make it official.
Who owns it?
I have not, we looked into that.
Do we need to apply for it?
You know what, I'm gonna be honest with you, I can't tell you, I was on a tornado. When I was yeah, tornado.
Gary, just said he owns it.
That's what I don't know what that is. I don't know what that
He does.
And that's the problem.
Color purple, see, this is what we're talking about.
The whole thing is, it's like anything else. I mean, if Mr. Wong was going after a trademark for his business, but nobody had the paperwork to say it was theirs, but somebody created it, and he went after it and got a lawyer to brand it, and it became his, then it becomes his. And nobody has any paperwork to say it's theirs.
Well, I don't mean it's his, I just know
Right.
the design.
Right, I get it, I get it. Yeah, we've been, me and Mr. Gary been working on this ever since I walked in the door, and I've been chasing a mouse.
But this here doesn't limit anybody else making this stuff. It just says that this is who we're gonna purchase from because of everything we get out of it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the contract that's been presented to us, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. No further business come forth, not on entertaining motion, we adjourn.
Motion.
Second.